You'll never believe what these kids did before the encampments were cleaned out. So, guys, yesterday, while City College and Columbia University were being swept over by the cops, at Columbia University, the kids took over one of the halls. They damaged it going inside. They damaged it inside once they were in. They barricaded themselves in, and then they had a couple of protesters outside. All right. So they get inside the building, they occupy it, and they start handing out demands while they're in the building. Now, they had demands going on the entire time. They had the encampment set up at these colleges, and a lot of the demands were that they wanted these colleges to divest from Israel, and that they wanted them to also show support if they didn't divest from Israel. And in some cases, a lot of these colleges had no investment in Israel, but they wanted colleges to have more sympathy or make more of a pledge in their fight against Israel, which is stupid in itself, telling a college to do that. But these college kids in Columbia College wanted food and water. You take over a campus illegally or against school policy, you raise hell on campus, then you break into one of the buildings, destroying it in the process, destroying it when you're inside, hanging your stupid Palestinian flags all over the place, and then you wanted the college or the city to turn around and give you guys food and water. How did they think that was going to work out? It was one thing, maybe if they had hostages, which according to the news, or two of the workers inside the hall, they were hostages for a little bit. I don't know how true that is or was, and I took that statement with a grain of salt coming from the guy that was actually caught inside the building. Anyway, if they had legitimate hostages, maybe you can make that request. Hey, we're going to hold up in here. We're going to keep these dudes in here, but we want some food and water for everybody. Okay, maybe they would have got it. Maybe, I don't know. You know what? I don't even think they would have got it then. But still, this is what entitled kids look like. This is what happens when colleges, who've been teaching this liberal crap for years, who've been teaching these kids to hate America and to love other countries and to respect other religions other than Christianity. This is what it looks like when it comes back and it bites you in the ass. Because these entitled kids who took over a college, who took over a hall, turned around and said, we want food and water. Because their behavior, guys, wasn't checked. And since they thought, well, let's up the ante and take it to the next level, and they did, they thought that that next level was going to be rewarded with food and water. This is what happens, guys, when you do not beat the balls off your kids. Because when you start giving them this entitlement of, listen, Derek, if you do this, I'll do that, and you do that shit throughout their entire childhood, these kids think that they can get something in return when they do something bad. And that's the problem with parenting these days, because a lot of this is bad parenting. A lot of this is the parents who gave in to their kids, stomping and screaming and yelling in the supermarket. All right. I'll get you the bag of chips. Stop yelling and screaming, and I will get you these bag of chips. And the kid goes, okay, and stops. Now the kid's 10 years old, throws a bit of a tantrum. All right. If you do this for me, I'll do that for you. I'll get you the PS 100. No such thing. But whatever, the PlayStation 100. And I'll get that for you. And the kid goes, okay. Now the kid's 15 years old, and the kid wants a pair of sneakers. He starts throwing the tantrum. The parent goes, hey, listen, all right, I get it. I'll get you the sneakers if you do this for me. And the kid goes, okay. And that's the generation of kids that were being raised. Kids that were being rewarded for bad behavior or being rewarded for throwing temper tantrums. And these kids thought that this was going to work. And now NYPD, or rather Columbia College, was like, nope, we're not doing this shit. And I could see that one of the demands, or a few of the demands, were just irrational demands that the colleges were like, no. That's why they never got to the point of an agreement, because they were probably making some outlandish demands. And this is all the colleges around the nation. But Columbia College was probably making even worse demands. And the craziness about the whole thing, guys, is that there are people who actually sided with them. Errol Lewis, who used to be a New York One reporter, that bag of shit, this fucking nerd here, this guy was saying that some of the teachers should have been on those sit-ins when they were making demands and or negotiating terms, because the teachers understood or understand the students and therefore could have had a better interaction with the negotiation. I'm like, no, you do not negotiate with terrorism. And Errol Lewis, who again, he is a piece of shit as the day is long. This guy needs a beating. He's probably one of those entitled dudes who had shit handed to him his entire life. Yes, he is a Negro, but even Negroes can be spoiled. And he is such a Negro. Anyway, this guy, Errol Lewis, doesn't live in the real world either. He lives in this fantasy world that he's trying to make up, and he's making up for these kids, and it doesn't work out. Now, these kids got their asses handed to them in Columbia College, and they got their asses handed to them at City College, because last night in City College, PD was making a move on the kids, and they got a lot of them locked up. They moved a lot of them out of the area. Eric Adams seems to think that a lot of these kids that were there were outside agitators, which I'm going to call bullshit on it anyway, because whether it was outside agitators or not, a lot of the kids knew better, period. Listen, you want to make a statement, you want to free Palestine? If Palestine was a terrible place, the Palestinian government would have done a lot of things to change what was going on. Gaza was in fact invaded by Hamas. Why are we freeing Palestine when the Palestinian government let Hamas do what they did in Gaza? That is the idiocy of the kids today. And these kids think that Palestine is jailed. And again, Palestine has their own government. They have their own military. They have their own almost everything. So they're not so much a country as that they are a state, sorry. And still, they have their own everything. So to sit there and go, oh, well, Israel is putting the boot on their neck kind of deal. No, that is not. That's like the furthest thing from the truth. Palestine allowed Hamas to move in, and this is what you're getting. So now you have a lot of people who are pro-Hamas or pro-terrorism, and no one's calling them that. They're calling them pro-Palestine. They're not pro-Palestine. They're pro-terrorist. They're pro-Hamas. They're pro-wanting to constrict people or demean people. That's what they're pro, because that's what Hamas does. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And again, when you tell these kids that, they don't believe it. Or and maybe they do, and they don't care. I don't know. Either way, guys, these kids wanted food and water after behaving badly. Didn't work out well for them. They didn't get their food and water. In fact, if I was the commissioner of PD, I'd have been like, yo, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sit back and sweat it out. Watch these kids starve to death or die dehydration. One of the two. But we're not going to go in there. We're not going to put hands on them. We're going to wait till they get weak, come crawling out, asking for help. We're going to put cuffs on them, take them to the hospital, square them away, and then charge them. That's how I would approach them. Like, you want to play this food and water game? So be it. You're not going to win this one. Anyway, guys, this is The Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching the Angry Truth channel.